the Salesian Theologate in the Holy Land. In 1929, the year of Don Bosco's beatification, the Rector Major Philip Rinaldi decided that the clerics, until then scattered in ordinary houses and exposed to the risk of activism, should be gathered together into study centers for an adequate preparation to the priesthood.
Following these instructions, the MOR Provincial Chapter discussed the possibility of establishing a Theologate in the Holy Land. The most appropriate venue seemed to be the house at Jerusalem Musrara for its proximity to the already existing centers of ecclesiastical studies. But that would have implied the closure of the primary school and the refurbishment of the whole premises. Due to lack of funds, this project was left aside.
It was decided instead to temporarily accommodate the theologians in the orphanage at Bethlehem. The courses began in 1st October with 9 students and 3 teachers, Father Belloni, Father Callis, and Father Taisedre, Father Rosin being the rector, and Father Gatti the provincial.
From 1930, the students attended some classes at the nearby Theologate of the Bethlehem Fathers, with the Jesuit father of the PBI was for some years the guide in the archaeological excursions. Other Salesian professors would come from Kremesen, at that time a formation house for novices and philosophers. Joint academic activities became customary as the study day in honor of St. Thomas Aquinas. The edition of 1935 had the honor to feature on the Osservatore Romano.
Poverty reigned at the orphanage and the theologians had their abundant share. A partial refurbishment of the premises was done, but it proved to be inadequate. On the other hand, the involvement of the clerics in the activities of the school and youth center demanded too much of their time. For this reason, the transfer to Jerusalem was explicitly advocated by the new provincial, who stressed its feasibility and the formative and pastoral advantages. But Torino answered, "Take time and study better the question."
At the outbreak of World War II, the British Army transformed the school at Jerusalem into a military hospital, and the orphanage at Bethlehem into a prison camp. For 3 years, the theologians, together with some 100 SDBs and Bethlehem brothers, were kept prisoners there. They managed to carry on their studies and even artistic activities, but the conditions were dire. Many conferers got sick, some died. It was the British Father Arthur Hughes of the Missionaries of Africa, as acting apostolic delegate, who obtained their liberation in February 43.
When the war was over, the majority of the theologians had completed their studies. In addition to that, for 6 consecutive years, no new recruits had arrived from Europe, so the number of the students continued to decrease. In 1948, after the establishment of the State of Israel, rejected by the Palestinians, the war between Israelis and Arabs broke out. With the armistice, Jerusalem was divided into 2 sectors. All the ecclesiastical study centers resulted in the Jordanian one, while the Salesian house remained in the Israeli sector, and due to lack of security, it was entrusted to a caretaker.
In this context, the suggestion was made to send a few theologians to Italy for their formation. Father Francesco Laconi, however, managed to convince the superiors that the attempt to keep alive the Theologate was worth taking. So in 49, he led to Tantur the little flock of theologians, 2 students and 3 professors. Missionary expeditions slowly restarted, and in successive years regular courses of theology were reactivated. However, when in 56 the Knights of Malta requested back their hospice, the theologians were relocated at Kremesen.
Kremesen was a better environment and offered a stable economic foundation. In 58, the students were 19, the professors 6. In the following years, the Theologate started growing, and with the impulse given by Vatican II, it saw a tremendous development. The old house was elevated and a new one built. The community became interprovincial. In 66, the students were 52 from 14 provinces. The best fruit of this flourishing season came in 66, when Kremesen was affiliated to the Faculty of Theology of the PAS, the first to achieve this promotion. In 74, the affiliation was extended in perpetuum. That was its claim to fame and an extraordinary reason for celebration.
Unfortunately, the Six-Day War in 67 stopped this promising period, and the Theologate, now part of the occupied Palestinian territories, suffered a setback. In the 70s, the number of students remained around 30. Also, small groups of Passionists and Franciscans came from Jerusalem to teach or to learn at Kremisan.
The years 68 to 78 were marked by epochal changes all over the world and in the church as well. Youth contestation, decrease of vocations, closing of seminaries, civil war and Israeli invasion in Lebanon, communist revolution in Iran. In this context, the continuation of the Theologate was called into question.
Father Egidio Vigano responded to the challenge. He encouraged the creation of the Association for Salesian Biblical Scholars, which in September 82 was established at Kremisan, but with an eye towards Jerusalem. Then, in 85, he launched the Kremisan Project, appointing a new principal, Father Strauss, and 2 permanent professors, Father Nordera and Father Vernet. With the active involvement of the deans of faculty, Father Midali, Father Pica, Amato, Zevini, Sodi. Thanks to the generous response of many lectures of the UPS and stronger exchanges with Bejala, the life at Kremisan was significantly enhanced. Revised curriculum of studies and excursions, summer sessions of ongoing formation for the Salesian family, as well as courses of catechesis at its source.
The year 91 saw the first centenary of the arrival of the SDBs and FMAs to the Holy Land. The celebrations were presided by the 2 superior generals and all the members of their councils, who gave to the Kremisan project a decisive boost. In the following years, the number of students grew up to 40.
In 96, an articulated evaluation process took place with the participation of the Counselor for Formation, Father Nicolucci, the Rector of the UPS, Father Farina, the Dean of the Faculty, Father Amato. While acknowledging the positive results, it was stressed that important problems remained open, as the lack of an adequate staff of professors, which in some cases obliged to summer sessions of few weeks at the UPS.
Father Vigano relaunched the project, envisaging the drafting of a special convention with the UPS and encouraging an expansion of the premises. Actually, an area plan for building was studied, approved by the civil authorities, but eventually halted for lack of funds.
In the 90s, some significant initiatives at the diocesan level were organized. Study Day on the Interpretation of the Bible in the Church, 4th Convention of the ABS, 3 weeks of studies among the biblical, theological, and ecumenical studies of the area, 97-99, in preparation to the Great Jubilee of 2000. The experience made us aware that, joining forces, we could lay the foundations for a Catholic university, or at least a consortium of faculties.
From 96 to 03, the average number of the students was 35, that of the lecturers 15. The House of Kremisan continued to financially support the Theologate, thanks to the revenues of the farm and wine industry, run by a bunch of hard-working and saintly coadjutors. The UPS continued to contribute personnel, Father Perenchio, followed by Father Zevini as rectors, and Father Mozetto as principal.
However, new obstacles arose with the Second Intifada, crisis of the tourism sector with big losses for the cantina, insecurity caused by the heavy traffic just in front of the house and by the security wall. Faced with those persistent difficulties, the community felt increasingly threatened. In this context, the Jerusalem option came into consideration once again. In 01, a lawsuit was filed in order to reclaim the property of the school on Prophet Street.
In 03, celebrations were held for the centenary of Father Belloni and for the 75 years of the Theologate. 3 emeriti professors were presented with the medal of the UPS. Father Cautero, who had served for 21 years as rector and much longer as lecturer, Father Grego and Father Provera. Taking stock of the specific contribution of the Theologate, Father Georges pointed out that it had been instrumental for the formation of 380 priests, of whom 10 became bishops and 12 lecturers in various faculties.
Father Mosetto seemed hinting to the future when he presented the Miscellany, Ecce Ascendimus Jerusalemam. In fact, since '02, thanks to the Apostolic Delegate Pietro Sambi, negotiations had been in progress between the Holy See and the Salesian congregation, which in September '04 eventually led to the transfer of the STS to Jerusalem in the premises of this Ratisbon monastery.
The transfer was carried on smoothly. The Fathers of Zion made us very welcome. The staff assured the continuity of both the formation and the academic programs. Since '06, the White Fathers have been sending to Ratisbon their students and contributing some lecturers as well.
The Rector Major, Father Pascual Chavez, approved the new statutes of the STS. He gave a tremendous contribution to the successes of this new stage, in all its dimensions, moral, academic, and financial. He was assisted by Father Mansali and Father Chireda. They were cleverly seconded by both the academic authorities at the UPS and by the local superiors, namely Father Preston, Father Spataro, Father Soperina.
A study day was held in '05 at Notre Dame on the 40th anniversary of Vatican II, sponsored by Archbishop Sambi, with the participation of local bishops and representatives of academic and religious institutions. Others dealt with the Word of God in the life and the mission of the Church. Bioethics, Challenges and Perspectives, led by Father Miranda, L.C. From Dei Verbum to Verbum Domini, led by Father Newhouse, S.J.
Inaugural lectures were given by Father Toso, Rector of the UPS, Father Janatsa, MOR Provincial, Archbishop Amato, Secretary of the CDF, Cardinal Zen of Hong Kong, Archbishop Fisichella, Rector of PUL, Father Attard, Counselor for Youth Ministry. The Secretary of State, Tarcisio Cardinal Bertone, gave a prolonged good-night talk.
The following books were presented: Grego, La Terresanta e I Cristiani; Gianazza, Oriente Cristiano; Ferrero Spataro, Tuo Padre et Io Ti Cercavamo; Fox Caputa, Priests of Christ in the Church for the World, dedicated to the Nuncio Antonio Franco for his Golden Jubilee.
The number of students grew considerably from 33 in '04 to 54 in '10. The overall number of lecturers has been 16. Some of them were awarded the Medal of the UPS as emeriti. Father Laconi, former rector, librarian and lecturer; Father Nordera, Father Kunchirakat. The curatorium met regularly.
This year, the Congregation for the Catholic Education issued the degree of erection of the STS as campus of the Faculty of Theology of the UPS. At the end of August, the ABS held its 6th World Convention, organized by Father Cabañas and Father Mosetto. Finally, Father Janatsa and Father Caputa were promoted Professores Ordinari, and new appointments were assigned: Father Ivo, Rector; Father Eric, Administrator; Father Biju, Principal.